learning and growth cycle, how wonderful it was to have Misty in my life. What a beautiful, amazing teacher and growth cycle. What an amazing, beautiful person. So yeah, that was a really amazing thing. Now, as I began speaking about key energy, energy work, movement, and all of these things, rates of acceleration that it came into flow, I wonder as to why in which I had brought it up earlier, and then as to why it is that it has come into the present moment now. But I do realize there was a fragment of information not shared earlier, and so right now, the beginning of going into key energy and structure and the on the revealing of the rest of that teaching, surely where it was going, as there's only one reason why, which I would be speaking about that man along with key energy. So I imagine this had to do with something when it came to the simple feeling of energy in the very beginning of a transference of teaching in some way, the very beginning motions of practice, perhaps, kind of where we maybe need to come into to show how the acceleration of growth into energy practice perhaps occurred in some sense. Now, if it were to be related to the entirety of my own personal journey, then I would say that a lot of different chord structures would need to be added and implemented to be able to understand the agitations necessary to create a being to move in the manner in which I was to move, to give me the focus in which I was able to have. And that was all through fear, insecurity, anxiety, depression, also hope and fantasticism due to movies and all kinds of different beliefs and wishes and desires and past experiences and glimpses and all kinds of things to really understand the focus that would bring one into such a dynamic structuring of mentality as to give me whatever it was that freed me from illusory reality. Um, but when it comes to the energy structuring and focus that brought in the energy practice, the motions and things, I can see that this key energy came in during this. Speaking of opening and flow to the Chinese traditional music, as to just understand the feeling of energy to a very simple and rudimentary way. A lot of people can experience very easily the feeling of energy just here within their own two hands. They put their hands together, they can press them together, or they just put them together. You know, you could do this very quickly or very, very slowly. It just really depends on yourself and the way in which you're able to feel very sensitively here now within the present moment we happen to be occurring within. Most people watching to this length and duration of this teaching most likely have already been able to feel energy. And so it'll be very simple, for them. They probably already done it. Maybe they're feeling, that they're so great in their nature that there's no reason to do it now because they've done it so many times before. So why do it now? It's not for them. It's for another person. And that's cool and that's great. And I would say whatever it is that you think to be true for you is probably true for you. And so I'm not trying to lead or guide or manipulate or control anybody into doing anything. So if you wish to do it, you can do it, and if you don't need to do it, then you don't need to do it. If you do need to do it, then you do need to do it. If whatever it is, it's not a big deal. There is no real need or have tos in the world in a certain way. Wants and desires, being a really interesting thing as well. But there is a want and desire that is a compelling and driving force, that is the compassion for ourselves, and which will give us the skillful means necessary to continue our journey after the realization of emptiness. It can be as simple as wishing for a cigarette or wanting something to eat or wishing to have sex. These things seem very simple and complete mundane, and as if they have no ordinary fashion in the complete unfolding of perfection, but actually there's really amazing perfections in the sacrednesses and the equalities of these amazing perfections and wisdoms and the reasons of whys of their occurrences. And of course the reasons of whys and specificity vary and have the amount of realm and dynamic of that, and which is the unique experience of each individual within the present moment they happen to be occurring within. Now, when feeling the hands moving away from one another, you can create a sense of pull between them. Now, if you start to push back, you may feel something kind of creating a different resistance. Now, if you're having trouble feel this, no problem. Just go ahead and repeat this process slower and slower each time, faster if you need, slowing it down, speeding it up. Just kind of feeling yourself, kind of feeling your hands as they come together, feeling the feeling of your fingers as maybe they near one another. Can you feel the fingers before they touch one another? Can you feel a feeling just before they make present moment actual skin connection? Which, by the way, nothing actually connects, everything remains separate, and things just have a feeling created through the repelling of their electron barriers with one another. But things cannot actually touch in the universe, but in a way they repel each other's barriers in manners that create the feeling of touch. And transference of energy is also possible. Now, so as they begin to touch, can you feel that tiny resistance between? And if you can feel that tiny resistance when they're near one another, can you continue their very small agitation into growth, into feeling them larger and larger and larger and larger and larger as they go further and further away? Seeing that when you draw too far, what that does to the space and how far it takes to gain that original resistance, and see if you can keep that original resistance further and further and further. Now, this kind of resistance feeling, when it comes to the magnetism that's occurring between the hands, it's kind of as the pushing and pulling of magnets. Most people will find this to be the way in which they reflect the feeling. If you have any other ways in which you reflect the feeling, I'd really love to hear it. If you can throw that on the comment line, that'd be great. Um, but anyways, because I love different perspectives and ways to articulate things in different natures, that way I can add these things to perspectives in which can be gained for the easy of transfer of information to other beings that may also articulate things quite uniquely and strangely or differently than what I would currently or previously. So, the pushing and pulling of magnets. Now, this is just a little quick key energy teaching in a sense, just to feel the magnetism or the energy of the body. You can move different ways, feeling the energy, move different ways, feel it interacting with itself. I'm kind of in an advanced level of feeling, so some people may be able to feel it just very slightly, as they come into the awareness that is their energy. And just coming into the awareness of their energy is, in a way, a boosting of their energy, as now they can feel it, they can be aware of it, they can start to become mindful and aware of what's occurring with it, seeing it, experiencing it, moving it. Knowing that the movement of energy is a very delicate and responsible practice, that it can have different effects on ourselves and focuses. If we focus it in certain ways, we can have giant reverberations occur. So it's wonderful for us to move our energy responsibly and be quite aware of what we're doing when it comes to maybe manipulating or controlling or forcing another part of reality in a certain sense with our energies. For me, the movement of energy is here with oneself in the body, and there were ways in which I would send energy with the intention to be for a being's benefit, but I would not know how in which to guide that. I would kind of allow the energy to be the wisdom mover and the teacher, just allowing myself to be more the hollow bone conduit of what was authentic consciousness or God, source reality, whatever it was that I was perceiving at the time of the energy transference to be the source of things and the purest, the wisest, most omniscient being. I allowed that to direct the healing energy that would move through me, and only for the being's benefit, knowing that if it be for the being's true benefit, not in the way in which I may view it to be a benefit, then it would always sync with them authentically, and I need not ask them for their permission for this frequency. I now may ask beings for their permission for frequencies, but other times I feel the need to breathe in and just send energy to a frequency. I know when bringing it to a place of neutrality, to where I'm not guiding, forcing, manipulating, or wishing to control because of my judgment, whatever I think to be best for a frequency, that then the breath, the heart, all that is able to move through me in the way that is of its truest benefit. And that could be any way at all. I have no way no way to know the way in which in a being, a being may really need a particular energy or focus brought to it, unless the moment presents it very directly and specifically through me in that moment particularly. And so I really just allow the breath to be the wisdom that guides the energy in the manner and the form and the shape that allows it to go. Sometimes in the moment, I breathe and see the channel that it wishes to move, and I move with that focus, and I allow that focus. But all of those things again are things that happen simultaneously with the feeling and the embodiment. So the visualization and the teaching of what's occurring may come through, and then a focus is there available, but it's presented by the moment directly as the moment's occurring, and maybe just previous to the moment. And if it is just previous to the moment, it's most likely that I will lead into it with a vocal presence in some way, asking permission in some kind of a manner, or having agreement, because I know that a long duration of channel may occur, and so this is going to take the agreement of another being to sustain itself for the entire length and duration in which the channel wishes to happen, or me, the channeler, will then have the accrued suppression of the extra energy in a way that will cause me dissonance or uncomfortable feeling. So then I would always come into a vocal understanding in some kind of a way. It's extremely rare for me to send energies in an intentional manner with a way of knowledge at this time and specificity in my journey. Really, energies are simply constantly being sent from all of us in all directions and being received in many different ways, and my energy is doing the same thing, kind of more synchronistically, kind of more emptily, kind of not knowingly, but also with the ability to replay chord shape, structure, and syllable, and observe again to see the articulation of what it was that has just transpired, or what it is even that is currently transpiring when it's been transpiring for a length and duration in which I can see how the syllable structure is repeating a pattern that then shows me what is happening rhythmically in a way that I can intelligently understand, and then kind of lean into helping the focus in a certain way, staying on and allowing, and just kind of getting out of the way, but being there within the way, as the way. That is a wonderful, amazing balancing again into this in-between space, or paradoxical pointing in reality that we're always going towards when we explain the wisdom of the Tao and what is the way, you know. Good things. So yes, this music is a really beautiful thing, and I can't wait to bring the speaker in. I do believe it will really help us, and I do like the Chinese traditional music for the way in which it brings us into a realm of discipline. But I don't know if this will actually work for all of you in that same way. It really depends on what it is that you responded to intimately, and the romanticism of your chord shapes of your reality. For me, I was always having a huge romanticism to Eastern culture and to the most amazing, beautiful martial art master movies and things like this. Things of great honor, integrity, that had virtuous values and discipline and focus. These things seem to be reflected in the entirety of the Asian culture, and even in the way in which their bodies were shaped to me. The flatness of their faces showing such a pristine focus and discipline and confidence, just an amazing elegance, just gorgeousness to me. And so when I hear Chinese traditional music, all of these things are reflected through it, as all these beautiful martial arts mastery movies, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and anything else that would come to me, The Man of Tai Chi, The Memories of the Sword, whatever other Jet Li, Jackie Chan fighting movies I had seen that always reflected something I saw to be of a true warriorship. The Last Samurai, even. These things were very beautiful stories, heroic in ways that showed a beautiful honor in a culture that was slain by Westernness, but also perhaps not slain in another way, but in the movies shown so. And just so gorgeous. So when I hear this music, it brings me into this amazing place, as in that movie that I seen, and just so many other things that I see reflected in such amazing exotic cultures and ways other than me, Native American, Hawaiian, whatever it is, so many amazing people, African cultures, so many things, but the Asian culture, the Eastern culture, in this way, the Chinese people, the Tibetan people, the Japanese people, the way they've held themselves in such honor and integrity in their actions, and in the movies that I've seen, of course, of the values of these old warrior styles with swordsmen and martial arts style kung fu and whatever it was, just really brought me into this amazing place within. And so we may dabble with these musics originally, coming into a place of more Zen style feeling or whatever it is, a beautiful airy wind style focus, and we'll see how it goes and how we move through different teachings and different reflections, and you'll be able to see the different ways in which it moves me into different embodiments of the wavelengths and tonalities of these frequencies and how they affect me and my heart currently within the realms of consciousness, and how I do believe it is symbolic of the chord shape and structure in which are the embodiments of the certain styles of expressions of these certain musics in which we will come into tune with, and also where the musics bring rhythm and tone and ability for the moment to express itself much more limitlessly. And so, in some way, you can see a rigidity to the flow of Chinese traditional music within me, but also a great focus and elegance in the discipline of itself presented within reality. And as we move into more like bass nectar and other things like that, you'll see how the amount of timing and songs moves through much more formless formness, which allows a huge spaciousness to the possibility of a chord shaped structure following and focus of energy. But it will also be shown how these two things are equally allowing expression to move with great fluidity and the limitlessness of its expression, and that we are only able to judge this through a comparison mentality that causes greater or lesser distinctions and won't allow us to see this leaf to be as beautiful as that leaf, as beautiful as that leaf, as beautiful as that leaf, or this culture, or this religion, or this person, or this race, or that race, or whatever it happens to be, this belief or that belief. Now, I will say that my belief structure, core shape, or honest authenticity of what is truth can create the belief and the judgment of lesser or greater distinctions when it comes to illusory or non-illusory, real and not real, false and true. Now, there are things that are completely purely illusory, and still they are true in a certain sense as well. But this sense will have to be clearly distinguished and defined for us to really be able to accurately determine what is here currently occurring within the realms of all of our shared experiences and our individual experiences internally, emotionally, physically, outwardly, mentally, whatever it happens to be. And these things that I wish to bring into nice, clear form and focus are things that can really help us oscillate and bend on the center of our frequency in a way that allows a curvature to unlimit us the previous limitations of our minds that have been brought to us very perfectly, very synchronistically, and so for no need of judgment by we, and to bring us into a way in which we can clearly see through this prison in which is being presented to us here presently within this moment. So thank you for everything, always, in all the ways that you will ever be, all the ways that you have ever been, all the thoughts you have ever had, and all the ways in which you will ever perceive yourself, clearing yourself in whichever distinctual quality to be greater, lesser, this, that, or the other, as we exist perfectly in all ways, always. And I am greatly grateful for everything entirely in any way in which it believes itself to be or believes anything to be, or whichever way in which it is, actually. Thank you. Ooh, my neck. Ooh. A lot of different things, strain and focus. You know, it's kind of hard maybe looking in one place. I should maybe allow myself a grace of movement. You know, could be looking this way, could be looking this way, could be looking this way, could be looking in any which way, just focused in a certain manner, focal point of form for too long or length and duration. As the channel is actually one that moves quite frequently in a really big way, and we're going to show this more and more as we go through. As you see the energy opening itself more and more and more and more and more and more, becoming more and more comfortable, authentically aware and confident of itself, and really just the longer in which the flow is open, the easier it is to just stay with it. You know, it's like bringing in habit, used to being with it, out of it, with it, out of it. That's what's good about having one point of focus, is that the longer you do it, it just becomes obvious that you can't not do it. And it becomes obvious that you were never not doing it and that nothing is ever not doing it. So it's really about just coming into awareness. And things can say, well, I know this because this man said this, and I believe this, and I conceptualize this. But just because you say this and you agree with this doesn't mean that you know this, and so it'll take an honestness. You'll have to be extremely honest with yourself and a high rate of authenticity and integrity if you really wish to lead yourself out of confusion, because you're not really hurting anything else, as there is no else to be hurting, one, and everybody else is, subject to their own perception. And so if they can overcome their perception, they can no longer be limited by the shared perception that you share with them. They'll now be able to be free of it and then help you become aware of what's occurring within you, because you're always going to cause them some realm of dissonance, suppression, or obscuration if they wish to harmonize with you, because they won't be able to express themselves as fully with you as they were without you. And so this will always bring to the awareness as to the question, why? And so them searching for why and limiting their own expression around you will uh, cause an awareness to become to you either directly or indirectly. It just all depends on what is able to be focused on to the greatest realm of benefit and relevance to each other in their journeys at that moment. And that will be governed and guided by the moment. We can try to force and control it and try to make it happen much more quickly, but it will happen exactly when it needs to be. And if we force something, we will get the opposite typically, in some kind of way that we may notice to be opposite, or some way which will come into focus to be opposite much more later as we rise in our awareness and the articulation of our reality in a way of specificity that actually aligns with what's happening here truly, actually. So yeah, I'm excited about the speakers and everything. And yeah, I mean, so yeah, we have that battery. We have these other two batteries. Well, we have the rest of this battery and then the other battery. Let's see. Yeah, I think we have plenty to keep recording for quite some time, and it just seems like it's just going to bring out all kinds of different lines and synchronicities and focuses, and it might even be redundant in some way, but that could be for the viewers, like you said, that might just jump in some random video, and so they kind of get a quick little recap and stuff like that. I don't know. And sometimes it's just good to repeat these things, like I was saying before about the mantras. Sometimes Om Mani Pum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Pum, Om Mani Padme Hum seems like a very sacred mantra, but it is again saying the jewels in the lotus, the jewels in the lotus, the jewels in the lotus, the jewels in the lotus. And anybody who watches this in full length and duration will understand, this in great context. And if you don't watch the entirety in full length and duration, then some of this can seem scrappy or out of nowhere, but it is an entire collected channel. So to watch from the beginning to the end is actually the entire duration of the algorithmic pattern that's being set into code. So this may not be able to be known or felt. They say if you keep your crown open, the cities are always pouring from the master to the student. They're constantly ever pouring out because the channel is forever open. You see, so really any expression happening from the master, any expression happening from that point is always going to be a constant transmission of some of the highest light frequencies guided from the moment itself, in the most perfect synchronicity with anybody in their journey that happens to be hearing or learning. And so, as I say these things repetitively, it's kind of the same thing as saying a mantra, because the mantras are actual words. The jewel is in the lotus is the word, so the jewel is in the lotus, the jewel is in the lotus, the jewel is in the lotus. The lotus is your heart and the jewel is enlightenment. The lotus is your heart and the jewel is enlightenment. The lotus is your heart and the jewel is enlightenment. The jewel is also the flame that is in the heart, the bridge between the heavens and the earth. The center frequency, unconditional love for all beings everywhere without one exception. You are the flame, the jewel that is in the lotus, the middle way, the bridge between the heavens and the earth, the very center where all things move through. These are beautiful mantras. And so is everything that is being said here now, a beautiful mantra, a beautiful transmission, a beautiful teaching. In every way that we go and lead, no matter the seemingly mundane frequency that happens to be ordinating or transmitting or coming through, and in any kind of way, it is an amazing sound and harmony that's vibing with the frequency of this moment currently, in any moment that this happens to be viewing in. And it's creating a tonality that is allowing things to oscillate on its frequency in a way that will bring liberation to all beings. And this is another sowing of the authentic confidence of this frequency in another way. And that's a really cool thing to be observing as well. And I was wondering, oh, should I say this observance? Oh, I'm saying it. Well, I'm wondering, should I say it? And so there's the saying of that as well. So everything will be confessed and everything will be brought into this moment here to be appeared as wisdom equally. No reason to be omitting anything. It's amazing the phenomenal frequencies that exist here within equanimity. Oh, amazing. Oh, feeling this guiding coming through here. This jaw lining. Whoa. It hurts sometimes. There was a time when I went crazy and it actually hurt my jaw. And I did it again another time and I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? Am I channeling for too long or am I not moving my head right with the movement? So that's what we're gonna find out. The movement, how it works, how it moves with everything, how it brings in the antenna of all of reality in a really amazing and limitless way, and we just have to be willing to play. And say anything that we wish to say. You know, it's a really amazing freedom that's occurring. And I'm really happy to be here, witnessing, observing, learning, hearing, listening. This is you are maybe currently. So I love you all dearly. How wonderful. I keep on saying these like seeming goodbyes, but I don't know if it's just like the end of this line. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll get up and start moving around. It'd be time to maybe find some new ground, you know. I like to just sit and channel constant, but it's nice to move.